to our next video. We could actually be on part 5 of our conversation around organic reach and conversations of competition associated to marketing and the sickness of these women to think that competition is setting booby traps, which is actually really intelligent of one of my kids that is the daughter of Noah Toppelberger. She was taught by her mother to lay booby traps for other people. However, she laid a booby trap for her own mother. So she's actually very, very insightful and very, very intelligent because she knew that her mom's evil. That birth mom lady is evil, but she knows how to schmooze her over. And then she said, I set booby traps, she says. When someone's mean to her, I think the question was, if someone was mean to you, what do you do? Well, I set booby traps. And that's what Melissa Toppelberger does. Melissa Wood is what most of you may know her as. That's what she teaches without speaking. So people say things. Like Mona Vance says things about what she thinks people need to have gratitude or some shit, which is all surrounded about how she feels about the way you feel about her. So it's words out of her mouth to get you to think some way about her, but she doesn't actually feel that way of gratitude. She feels entitled, living in delusion, while she brags about a diamond. She doesn't care, honestly, about being grateful. She just pretends to be grateful so that it looks cool on platform, so that you look at her as if she is grateful. And that creates peace of mind in her aura, so that she can go run around and lay booby traps. I understand that communism acts of violence and abuse and how all these women operate. And then they live in a whitewashed world of never taking responsibility or holding themselves accountable. So we all live in an unsafe environment, meaning if you even think about trying to climb the ladder of information associated to what they're up to, they will cut you any which way they fucking can to never produce anything of creative risk. A creative risk is to, well, really what I do is creative risk. Every piece of content I put out is creative risk, in that you won't understand what I'm speaking to, and that you're going to actually retaliate against me, but I don't give a shit. Because I know my shit is a perspective of value that actually is truth, and you're the one that's incorrect. So you're looking at my shit as if you know what you're talking about, but you don't actually know what you're talking about. And so I get hits off of people judging the shit like a Mona Van or a Melissa Wood, but because they don't want me climbing in approval ratings, I guess you could say. Because if I go viral, they get called out and caught in their nasty behavior. And then their stock plummets. But even worse, they end up in prison. They go to prison, folks. They're going to prison. And some of them are getting executed. Now, when it comes to the hits, they're indirect hits sometimes of a group of women working together to keep their empire growing, while they're teaching you on how to you're either on the outside of the circle or you're on the inside of the circle. And if you're on the inside of the circle, you're working here, which is where Valeria and Melissa Wood. And then there's little different separation groups of women working together to all make sure that you all go lower. But they talk like Melissa Wood asks the little girl, and she says, well, what would you do if you were mad at somebody or someone pissed you off or whatever? And she says, I set booby traps. So they're all working against each other, proclaiming to tell everyone to be nice and to be grateful and shit. But they don't mean it. But then they get you to do it, which then you never succeed in the business. And then their man comes along and tells you to be happy with what you have. Or he comes along and says, be vulnerable to that shit. And then he invites all those people on a wellness oasis stage where they all fuck the audience over, but the audience is also fucking over the people on the stage. And then that whole group collectively is fucking over the people that are watching at home. Understand that and you'll understand social media. So there is mitigation, which is basically creating a awareness game around the bad behavior to clean up bad behavior so there can be risk creative, because we can have risk creative. For example, me and Gary Vee operate under creative risk of competition. He says something, I say something, and they're both new perspectives. However, they're on similar spectrums of education. However, Gary Vaynerchuk is with Monovan, is he not? I took Quant and Qual, wrote it on the board. That can be a competition of talking about Quant and Qual as a subject matter. However, I want Gary Vee to talk about Quant and Qual so that I can call his ass out when it comes to his sick ass, bitch ass fiance that he calls out constantly. So that's competition with creative risk and mitigation. Even playing ground. However, we don't work an even playing ground because he's got 40 million, money, connections, and I have nothing, and more education than him, and I don't have a bitch weighing my ass down either. See, that could eventually become a collaborative move because I live in conviction and I do not steer away from what you all like. I don't give a shit what you like. I'm going to tell you the fucking facts. I don't give a shit what Legacy Media fucking thinks. I don't give a shit what none of you fucking say. You get the fuck out of my face. Everybody wants to be validated and praised because bitches like Melissa Wood and Alex Cooper and Alex Earl are abusive and they make everyone feel devalued and insignificant. It doesn't matter how much money you have because that's just who they are. And they worked a brand out of it by women all acting like that to collectively create narcissistic, sociopathic behavior of a cult. Don't forget the Swifties. Well, no one told them that they were doing wrong. And if you did, you ended up in a chopping block or blacklist like I did. Creative is subjective. However, it's not subjective. No, that's a fantasy pie in the sky existence because your Ponzi scheme has told us what we're supposed to like. In reality, it's subjective. However, I can't imagine how anyone could like Alex Earl and anything she produces. So in that realm, it is not subjective. It's forced upon you with her big tits in your face. Same thing with Heather Lamusa and anyone else in that LA brand imaging bullshit. We can't fucking stand you. Yet collectively, they come together and act like they're friends. And then they collectively try to tear everybody down. And then you try to tear them down. But nothing ever gets accomplished because you're all a bunch of bitches. Now, a form of subjective would be Gary Vee holding up an eraser. And then me also holding up an eraser. And then saying, well, which one is more appealing to you? And that's what we want. We want people having versatile information, not with everybody having a white background. Because that keeps the brain sane. The brain gets sane and you get to handle your own problems. And then you will actually judge those people. And that's what we want. We want you judging them. Moving on to our 6th or 7th video, because we are almost done. We've done a lot actually, but we're going to go to our next video.